Welcome to a brand new season of the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast. I am John, Johnny Shitty Tweets, Johnny Podcast, Johnny Spreadsheet, the Thursday Night Delight, the George Bushy of voting against George Bush. And my co-host is Andy, and we are back for another season. I know there was some drama there at the end of last season. We debated whether we're going to be back entirely. We'll cover that in a little bit, because the answer is
kinda.
Yeah, it's not a solid yes, but we have a brand new season to talk about. David vs. Goliath premiere just dropped, and Andy, welcome back. Let's talk about the show.
Yeah, first off, people might have noticed, we have a new policy on our explicit rating. So that's always been there in iTunes if you see that, and that's because we have a few shows where if we wanted to censor them, there wouldn't be much material left, and that's, largely the two interviews we did with Tony Vlachos. But we generally tried to keep our podcasts, cursing free, because, it's just a more casual way of talking, and we figure some of our listeners might be listening with, little ears that they would want to hear stuff. That's not going to be the way it is now. We're not going to be censoring ourselves because it's more work than we want to do for maybe no audience. We actually have no proof of whether it matters to anybody who listens to the show, whether we curse or not. So right up front, I did want to get that out that, this is no longer a censored podcast, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be the Purple Rock After Dark or anything like that.
Right. Even parents that we know have kids have not said to us hey, just make sure, no F-bombs. No one's even brought that up, so.
Yeah, and just last season we did a whole episode on the fucking stick, and we didn't censor that. So, it's probably something we were doing for no reason. And the other reason why, we can't censor, we're having this policy is because it's not always going to be you and I. You and I are fairly practiced at trying to keep things a certain level. We let a few ones slip out here or there, but we've, gotten good at censoring ourselves. But we're no longer going to be the only hosts of this podcast. And I think everybody should know that Emma has a hell of a potty mouth.
Yeah. I think the key to this policy for me is that it's less work. You had me at that. You sold past the close.
No, that's why we're doing it. I'm just trying to, sell this as a benefit for the audience. Or,
okay, gotcha.
It's clearly that we want to do less work, because if we're doing it, we have to listen for it. We need to, put in this whole thing. It's a waste of time. But yeah, the bigger news is, and if anybody read this on our site, we are now going to move the podcast to a rotation of hosts. So the different members of the staff of the Purple Rock will be hosting the show at different times, which means this week you get your traditional, the best, the Goliaths of the Purple Rock, John and Andy, and then we're not going to be here next week.
Yeah, and I personally refuse to associate with any of the lesser plebes of our site, so it's mostly going to be me with you. I think I do have one that's not with you, right?
I actually have a couple. Actually, this is the only one on the schedule with us so far, but we only scheduled out the first 7 weeks, after which time I'm sure I will no longer want to share my airtime, and thus I need to do the schedule, because I'm going to take a couple weeks off after this. And so that's kind of the thing. The podcast will continue to exist, but you're going to hear different voices. I'll apologize right now if that maybe is a little disappointing, or if it absolutely will lead to a different experience. A lot of times people choose podcasts because they like the people talking, but sometimes maybe it'll be a positive. And I think the big positive is that you won't hear us repeat the same take week after week after week. And I think that's the big benefit for me, other than, getting some weeks off, is that, this isn't a show that changes a lot, week to week. And especially a season like last week, I was talking about the major theme of the season, which was, a player who everybody loved that was refusing to do anything for 7 weeks in a row. So at least now I can kind of cool it and then come in with a rant maybe a couple weeks after the fact.
And speaking of rants, let's get to discussion about the actual show that the entire premise of this podcast is based on, Survivor. Brand new season, 20 people in this cast. What was your initial reaction?
And we should note that this is an initial reaction. Neither you nor I, if I'm correct, did any preseason coverage at all.
Exactly. The only thing that I did is I had a fantasy draft. I looked at the pictures and I was like, that one. I saw pictures and names, picked those people. I don't even know if I could tell you who I picked for my team at this point, but yeah, that's the extent of my research.
Yeah, which is actually so much more than me. Every once in a while, some of these people would pop up into my Instagram because I follow the Survivor account, which frankly I probably shouldn't. I don't know if I've ever enjoyed one of their posts. And yeah, so we took it completely off because, well, for one, I've never liked preseason Survivor in non-All-Star formats because I am generally only interested in these people once they are Survivor players, and by definition, they are not in the preseason. But also because I wanted to see what it's like to have to come into a season with completely fresh perspectives, to not be, judging the season based on what I wanted it to become, based on what I, assumed from the preseason, which is the way a lot of people do it. It's fine if you're one of those people. Frankly, you're probably a bigger and better fan of me of the show, at this point in time, but that's not how I'm going to be. So, if, 5 weeks from now you come at me with like, well, if you remember in the preseason, the answer is no, I don't. All I know about these people is the way they've been presented in the show. And I will say, watching one episode, 90 minutes, which is a boon, still not a whole lot of impressions with a lot of them. Like, we got a lot of different people in a actually impressive way, in a way that we often don't get. But I'm still kind of like, okay, let's get to know them.
I'll say that my initial impression is that I feel like I got a decent picture of at least a portion of the cast, and it was more about who they were rather than who they're aligned with. And I feel like that's useful information for my rooting interests and for later on in the season and those sorts of things. So I enjoyed it. Obviously we missed a first tribal council, but the first vote of a season is generally not the most interesting of votes anyway. So if we're going to miss one, not so terrible to miss the first one of the season, right?
Yeah, I mean, terrible is, like, I don't have a complaint about this week's episode, but I also don't know if I have an opinion of this week's episode, so welcome to my podcast. But yeah, it's like, it was okay. It was Survivor, I started to get to know some people. Did some different things that we're going to talk about, but, there really wasn't a plot because of the thing that happens at the end. So, I'm a person that discusses Survivor, and very much in this podcast, we discuss it based on decisions, and there weren't really any.
Yeah, but I feel like there were several people that I saw on Twitter hyping this up as, the best premiere since whatever, Cambodia, some even went Cagayan, whatever it might be. I would say it's a good premiere at least. I mean, I don't know that I necessarily have to compare it to previous seasons. I'm just going to say, like, it was a step up from recent seasons, I'd say.
I mean, I'll be honest. Even recent seasons, it turned out a different way. I can't really think of, like, whether their premieres were good or bad. I think, there's at least one, I can't tell if it was the most recent or the one before that. That wasn't much because it was only 1 hour, and we've not become accustomed to that, to the point where it doesn't feel like they can get everything they need done in 60 minutes at the beginning of a Survivor season. But I mean, whatever. Yeah, I mean, this is fine. It was good to get to know these people again, especially because I'm going in completely fresh. These are, fresh opinions on basically everybody. I know of Mike White, so, there would be some, opinions based on that. I know a bit of Johnny Nitro, a very small bit. We can get into that, but otherwise, these are completely new, faces and personalities, except that a lot of them aren't particularly new personalities. So because we're early on in Survivor, it's still like, okay, that archetype, that archetype, that archetype.
Right. But I mean, speaking of fresh new things and new perspectives, there were at least a few wrinkles to this episode. I mean, we actually got some non-chronological editing for the first time in I don't remember how long. What'd you think of that one?
First of all, I want to make sure I'm not complaining. It's just, I kind of wish I wasn't podcasting this week because I don't have a lot of strong opinions about what happened. It was fine. Let's see what happens next.
Don't worry. I'm gonna carry you because there's at least one aspect of this episode, maybe even two, that I have strong opinions.
Yeah. So the non-chronological bit is, the finding of the idol by a beefy guy, Dan. I kind of feel like the reason why we got that isn't necessarily that the Survivor editors are being a little more clever. It's because they didn't capture the shot in the first place. So obviously people are like, well, no, we saw him. I kind of feel like that was a play-acted moment after the fact, which is something that happens in Survivor sometimes. They have to recreate moments they lost. But I suppose if they recreated it anyway, they could have told it in chronological order.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, it was kind of interesting. It was, like somebody talking and you're like, okay, he's going to do the thing about talking about the idol. And then he's like, it's in my pants. And actually the way he said that, it's like, is that phrasing? Like, cause we didn't see you find an idol, dude.
Yeah, it was perfectly timed to where you're like, wait a minute, I didn't see you get an idol. Is this really just some kind of reference to your penis? Like, what's happening right now?
Yeah, and then even as he's pulling it out, I'm like, oh my god, are they giving me a fake idol already? Because it's like, what are you talking about? And maybe that's what led them to. It's like, this dude just leads off with the idols in my pants. Can we just kind of like let that moment sit for a second?
And then we'll catch everybody up in a few minutes.
Because, I do believe this show has proven, more than once that they are not opposed to the odd dick joke.
Oh, I think they prove every season that they're perfectly fine with a good dick joke here and there. Or a bad dick joke here and there.
Any kind. Is there such a thing? So yeah, no, I actually liked it, because it does give you a bit of a moment like, well, how about that? Now, I do wonder if that's kind of a metatextual enjoyment for people like us, that it's like, oh wow, they delayed the reveal by, 5 seconds, or, reverse the order only slightly. How creative and inventive. Whereas in general, it's like, whatever. Okay, he has an idol. What did you think?
I mean, for me, that's enough. Like, just play with your storytelling. The show is 19 years in. You have some liberties you can play around with. Like, the audience has a certain level of trust in you. Given recent seasons, maybe it's not the most earned, but, you still have some credibility you can play with. Take a shot. I think that one worked for me. I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed, and it was much less significant, but, they fast forwarded through Christian droning on in a confessional, and I dug that as well.
Yeah, see, that one I liked a lot more. And, it leads me to question, because obviously when you do that, the edit for that is to convey the sense of, man, this guy just goes on and on and on. And maybe that's exactly what it is. And thus it's a terrific way of editing it. It really conveys it in an efficient, matter of time. But I also wonder, it's like, maybe it was like a standard length thing, and that's just a trick you can do to really hammer home what a dork this guy is. And frankly, either way, good stuff. Do that. Do stuff like that.
Yeah. And I got the sense just from watching Christian in this episode that he could stand to dial it down a bit. Like, his natural nerd would shine through without this, and he seems to be amplifying it. And I don't think that's necessary. I almost wonder if that's the show telling him, like, yeah, we get what you're laying down. You don't have to lay it down quite so thick.
Yeah, but I do think it was almost, it's very intentionally possible. I do think the editors, mess with people from time to time as in a small act of revenge for what those people put the editors through. And I'm all in favor of that. I'm not one that typically complains about editors' editorial treatment of players, because I don't care. These people exist for my entertainment, not their own experience. So yeah, I dug that. And, as you were saying with the other one, yeah, it is a small thing, but maybe if that's them tipping their, or dipping their foot in the water, and showing, like, let's test this with the waters to see if we can get a little more experimental in the way we tell the story. Yeah, I'm all for that, because frankly, a lot of the rest of the episode did feel very standard to me, albeit, a little more extended, and a lot of that was because they lost a tribal council, so they had a little bit more time to play with beyond the fact that it was 90 minutes. Cause yeah, it's like, all right, Jeff's doing the spiel on the boat again. All right, we're doing an open challenge again. And I guess we should talk about that a bit. What did you think of the open?
It was fine. If you're a fan of Survivor, you know what to expect there. Like, Probst is going to beat you over the head with the season's theme. It's not for you. It's for the more casual fans. All right. Like, I get it. It's annoying. He shoves it down your throat phrasing. But it's what you've come to expect. It's going to happen. So it didn't really bother me. The opening challenge thing was also nice and contrived, as you expect. Like, it was all set up for the Davids to have like this overcome the odds moment. And of course they did, because it's not like the odds were so stacked against them in that relatively mundane challenge.
Well, and also it's all about the puzzle, right? And if to the
Right.
degree that Probst almost, gave the game away when he started talking about it, it's just like, yeah, none of the other stuff until you get to a puzzle and a challenge matters. Or, most often it doesn't matter. Sometimes, a lead can be so huge that it will matter, but usually that's also in comparable puzzles. No, I mean, unless they fell off the boat 5 times, nothing that was going on was going to matter. They were going to win. Or, they totally screwed up the picking up the puzzles, which a brainy group has done before.
Right. And a quick aside here, like, algorithms for slide puzzles are not some massively amazing nerd thing. Like, he's just basically telling you there are certain steps to follow to solve a slide puzzle. It's not that complex. You can Google it and you'll figure it out within 30 to 60 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one difference for him is, like, he programmed the algorithm, but which is your point.
Sure.
Yeah, the algorithms are very simple. I'd say it fit, like, so well with the earlier comment made about him, which I believe was by Mike White, where, he called him Big Bang Theory, is that,
Yes.
like, that's kind of the MO of that show, of, like, things that actually aren't that complicated or all that. Like, look at this crazy nerd stuff.
Right, exactly. Like, oh, this nerd likes Star Wars. Yes, one of the most popular movies in the world. Wow, look at that nerd out there with his singular nerd culture.
That's right. These nerds and their superhero t-shirts that they sell in all major stores. I mean, at this point, also shirts of those nerds of that show, the most popular show on TV. So it's kind of funny, and that works. You know what? I'm generally with you on it's not worth getting worked up over the themes. It's just what Survivor does. They need a title. It's kind of, but I don't know. This time it was just like, yada yada, get on with it. And I don't know, maybe it's just because it felt like this one required more exposition, and I don't know if a ton of exposition is the best way to start a television program.
Wait. You're saying this required a ton of expositions. Do you remember the complete invention of the term no collar out of whole cloth?
You know what? Maybe that one bothers me less because I'm like, let's see them do this. Whereas it's like, I get what David versus Goliath is, man. Can we move on? In fact, the more you talk about it, all it does is strain your premise. Then it gives us time to be like, but why him and why her? Wait, wouldn't this person just so easily be on that? Which is, of course, the truth of every time they do this. The divisions are very arbitrary. But it's just like, you didn't need to sell fast to close, man. This is one of the most simple ones you've ever done. Underdog versus overdog. Shut up, Probst, and let's get on with this already.
Yeah, do you feel like they're kind of shoving this whole, like, root for these lovable underdog nerds? Is that being pushed a little too hard for you already?
I mean, there can be no doubt, right? Like, it was right there in the title. Who's cheering for Goliath in the story of David versus Goliath?
Who's got 2 thumbs and is rooting for Goliath?
Well, no.
This guy.
In terms of the Goliath tribe, I'm all in. And of course, that is so on brand for us.
Yep.
But no, like, the idea of David versus Goliath, everybody pretends to be David in this scenario. David versus Goliath is what, like, the New England Patriots will tell themselves in, that week. Only they're David, right? Like, that's so obvious. So yes, of course, the show is leaning heavily on let's root for the underdog, and it makes me wonder which way our audience will lean this season. And obviously, the obvious thing is they will root for the nerds as they always do. Except that the other side of our audience, and frankly, internet fans in general, is they reflexively hate or dislike anything the show tries to push on them. Anything that seems like it's the favor of Jeff and the quote unquote producers, is that they must push back against that idea. But what do you do when it's also your nerds, man? What are you going to do? I'm very interested in what the critical tensions in our community will be this season. Will they just continue to cheer for the people that they think will play dorky games with them at a bar? Or will they be like, screw you, Daddy Probst, you can't tell me what to
do. Phrasing. I'm already planting my flag. I am on the side of the overdogs. I want to see the privileged win, as they always do in life. by starting with a massive advantage.
Well, I mean, I think it was also clinched for you when it kept, so many things had the undertone of, apologize for your money, Goliath. That never sits right with you, right?
Exactly. As an ardent capitalist, I was like, how dare you insult these people for their financial success?
Whereas, I mean, if I have a bias at all, I mean, of course I have a bias at all. Why am I even saying that? But, it's like I like to root for winners. That's what I do. And, that Goliath tribe looks like a bunch of winners. I mean, when you got the powerhouse of Mike White in there, what else could they be?
I mean, my initial impressions of the Goliath tribe were generally pretty positive. I did like some bits and pieces on that David tribe, but I think overall, obviously there's some arbitrary, this person could go either way types. But I think if you just at first glance look at a picture of that David tribe, they do, based only on appearance, look like the weaker or the lesser. So not bad there, aesthetically at least.
Yeah, although I guess one note I'll say that is a lot of people on this season aesthetically look like maybe they'd be on a lesser. This is not necessarily a cast of supermodels. Despite apparently almost all of them being in California. But it's like, you wonder, like, when they kind of, like, got all the cast shots, the headshots of this cast, to be like, all right, we need to change casting. Do you think maybe that's what happened?
So cruel. I refuse to honor this line of thinking.
I was just saying, hey, people, and, I know you're all waiting to see which beautiful spirits you like before you talk about who's hot or who's not. But, judging based on other tribes, I don't know if there's as many thirst traps on the what I'm looking at right now. Certainly some attractive people.
Well, do we want to start talking about these people, attractive or no?
Yeah, let's break down some of the cast. This'll almost be like our little season preview, because clearly we didn't do that. And frankly, we're basing it on more than what people with season previews for. We've actually seen these people interact, and not just, answer questions on a souvenir. So not souvenir, that's not the word.
Nope.
Questionnaire? Very close words. I understand why I screwed that up. Let's start with the guy who had to go home. What do you think of poor old Pat?
I mean, he was definitely on my screen for 60-ish minutes.
Actually, before we get to Pat, we should probably talk about what happened to him. Cause yes, he was, taken out by a freak accident when the cameras weren't on. Do you think there is anything that we can take from what happened to him? Like, was the show negligent? Is there something that he should have done and didn't do, or that they could learn from to prevent such a thing from happening in the future?
Gotta watch out for that blue wave. It's that vast liberal conspiracy.
I mean, that would be great if, the metaphor pulls off, is that a blue wave takes off. I mean, I don't know the guy. I don't want him to cast aspersions, but, if you were to make a poster.
Exactly. If I were trying to guess based solely on the casting photo, I might come to that conclusion. I mean, it's hard to make any sort of conclusions here because we saw no video evidence, and I'm not going to allege there's some kind of conspiracy because there's really no reason for them to have cameras rolling as the boat is taking them back to their home beach.
I mean, not only is there no reason, there is a reason that they don't. They do not film at that time. That is a policy of the show that cameras are off and contestants aren't allowed to talk to each other. That's what it is when they are being transported from place to place, and that is how it's ever been. Continue.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's specifically a moment outside of the show wherein the game is not being played. So the fact that, we didn't get to see Pat getting injured in any significant way, you wouldn't have just because of the nature of when it happened. So it's hard to say what could they do to prevent something like that from happening again. We don't even know what the weather looked like when they were going back on the boat. It's, shrug? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that is the true and correct take. We do not know, and it's, maybe wildly irresponsible to, theorize. Not that that's ever stopped somebody on the internet. I'll say the weather is the one thing, is that this is, it's not unusual that it's bad weather at this time at that part of the world, and frankly, it's not the first time. It was not that long ago in Fiji that they had to shut down production for a couple of days due to a cyclone. Yep. I think reports coming off this season is that they had 2 cyclones while they're out there. Whether that caused shutdowns or not, I don't know, because again, I was avoiding news. That one just kind of found me. So then there's the question, it's well, maybe they shouldn't be filming around that time. And I'll say, I don't know enough about Fiji weather to be sitting here making that call. It's important to note that, like, they film back to back. And when I mean back to back, I mean, like, 2 weeks off and then they're back at it. So if we're talking about pushing it back, we're talking about pushing the whole year back. But, I mean, if we're talking about weather that's so bad that they're getting whipped around by cyclones and that, 20 feet waves start cracking out of nowhere, then yeah, maybe they should consider that. I don't know.
Get at us, Fiji meteorologists.
Yeah.
Let us know.
I want people to start tracking weather patterns and, good luck to you because I've heard they're kind of difficult to track nowadays. Some weird things are happening. So, I mean, I'll say this. I don't think anything negligent happened. Whether this is something they could learn from in the future, such as, let's wait out things before we get on the water. Yeah, maybe. Again, we don't know that they didn't. They certainly seemed to wait out long enough for, the torrential rain that was happening during the challenge and no rain at all. And some people looking kind of dry when, Jeff talks to them after the challenge. I don't think that was instantaneous. I think that they waited for that. So maybe when they hit it out, it was okay. I don't know. But yeah, if there is something to be learned from it, hopefully they did, just like they did learn to let's try to hydrate our contestants better when they almost killed somebody like that. But as for this particular instance, I'm willing to say, man, bad things happen sometimes and, there's not much you can do about it,
Yeah. I mean, tough break, Pat. I think it was pretty clear, and I think it was probably included for a reason, that he had already started to rub a few people the wrong way. That doesn't necessarily mean he would have been the first person voted out.
I don't think he was going anywhere. I think that was, first couple days, people are a little upset. He obviously is kind of gruff and not very considerate. And frankly, a personality, clash a bit with a lot of the other people on his tribe. But once they started to have a few nights sleep where it wasn't so wet anymore, I think that had already blown over. Like, hey, you know what? It wasn't so bad that Pat was kind of talking over us because look, we're not wet tonight. Or as wet, I should say.
Phrasing.
So I don't think he was in any danger. I do think that, like, he was, looked like to be a personality that could have been a bigger one, especially in contrast with the rest of his tribe. But I also kind of feel like it's a personality type we get all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, I know there's going to be people who automatically, just out of a sense of fairness, are like, oh, you should bring him back. Should you?
I mean, maybe. I don't care. Like, maybe he was so amazing during casting that that's why they'd want to bring him back. Based on these 3 days, I don't care. And also based on his accent, it's like, look, sometimes bad things happen. It's not like everybody who got voted out 3 days in deserved it. Deserve ain't got nothing to do with it. So if they feel like, man, we really lost, like he was destined to be one of the stars of our season, and then they have a theme that it makes sense, sure, whatever. Like, he didn't bother me, but I don't care if he comes back or not.
Right. That's kind of my point, is that I don't care either way. I'm not going to have some, like, passionate sense of fairness that we need to bring Pat back. Like, it definitely sucks what happened to him, but, it's not like I had some fully formed opinion of Pat and I desperately need him back in some upcoming season.
Yes, I also want to state for the record that as a human being, I feel empathy and compassion for what he happened to him, because I feel like we didn't get to that part. And no, it sucks. It sucks so much. And, it was interesting seeing him there and being like worried of all the things. And, it should be noted that he doesn't remember any of this, but I don't want to quit. It's like, dude, you're not quitting. This is a back, man. We can't mess with this. They can't be like, you know what, get up and let's see how you're walking off. Oh no, you're paralyzed. So yeah, it really sucks. And yeah, maybe he would have had more to offer the season, but based on what we got, it's kind of like, I've seen that before. And I will also say that I'm not exactly going to mourn, the lost confessionals of how Pat is a David who's worked hard every day of his life. Like that, it already felt like that was the box that he was going to be put in. And I don't know, we get worker bee all the time.
Right. So instead, let's talk about something that was maybe, or someone that was maybe a new wrinkle to the show. Like, what was your impression of John?
I'm all in.
Oh, fuck yeah. As I was watching, I think it was after his first confessional, I turned to my wife and I'm like, I love the mayor of Slamtown. Like, I, as soon as he called himself that with like a little roguish smile at the camera, I'm like, yes, you mayor of Slamtown. I am all in on this bit. I love it. and it's so funny to me because he's being completely inauthentic, but it feels so real at the same time because it's just what he does. And like I said earlier, like Christian had to dial up his nerdery. Like this is an act that he lives in so much. It just comes naturally to him. And I completely enjoy it.
That's right. He's not breaking kayfabe. So I, in a previous life, was a pretty big fan of professional wrestling. Kind of a time of like university aged and pretty much just that, I think. Well, I mean, as a child too, and then, ebbed and flowed and came back. So I actually, did see when he broke into WWE. It was through their Tough Enough program, but I think long after it ceased to be a reality TV show. So I recognized him, but he was just coming up when I stopped watching. So I don't really have like an attachment in that sense. But it's a perfect fit of, brash professional wrestler with Survivor because he has lived the life of crazy stuff happens all the time. But the show goes on. And I think that's a great attitude to have for Survivor because, as the theme of this episode, life out there sucks. Dealing with the people can suck, dealing with, the deprivation and, voting out people. But, at the end of the day, we got to put on a show. And that very much seems like his attitude about all of this when he's going through all of his different nicknames, when he's talking to Mike White and all this is kind of, when he's talking about how he does an ugly American character to, rile up Mexican audiences. It's just like, it feels like, for as long as he's going to be here, and look, it's right before the merger, right after the merger is how long he's going to be here. I think he will get it. He won't take this too seriously. It's put on a show and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think the fun thing for me is, occasionally get those people. There was one last season that we spent a lot of time talking about, those people that are hesitant to do things because it reflects on them as a person and, I'm so attached to. He does not have that issue. He will not be burdened with such things. He is clearly fine with embracing an act. He'll play a heel. He doesn't care. He knows it's all for entertainment. I'm in. I want to watch this happen.
And it's interesting you put up to play the act is because I think as soon as they reveal David versus Goliath, he's like, okay, I get what we're doing here. And he leans into it, right? He's like, Of course I'm a Goliath. Meanwhile, like, he's a guy who kicks around like indie, like he hasn't taken the professional wrestling world by storm. He probably makes less money than most everybody I've actually ventured to say on his tribe. Oh no, there's a bartender, so it might be a hand in hand. Like, the old joke about professional wrestler is what's the difference between a wrestler and a pizza? And the answer is a pizza can feed a family of 4. Like, these people are gypsies who bounce around. And yeah, he's doing like Mexican indie here. He's off in some, tiny arena in bumfuck Iowa there. But yeah, he's always like, oh, we're doing Goliath. I'm the heel. Let's do this. And he just went right into it.
And again, the funny part is that, when there's these normal people that are like, oh yeah, like Pat, for example, who was like, yeah, I'm a David and I overcome things. I'm rolling my eyes. But John wholeheartedly embraces it. And I'm like, yes, you're a Goliath. Do this.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of how it is with us, right? And then when I say us, very specifically you and I, and obviously other people, it's like the people that are too earnest about what great heroes they are, complete wank gesture for us, right? But the people who like lean into, it's like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna be a bit of a villain on this, silly contest of voting people out. We're like, yes, let's do that. Yeah, because, and obviously if they are just an asshole, we're not in, but it's just like, like, which level of artifice? If you're like, oh, I'm Rupert the hero, we're like, whatever, buddy. But if you're like, ha ha ha, I am, Johnny Nitro, the Goliath, we're like, perfect. You're gonna bring the cheese that this, artifice demands.
Well, with one little asterisk here, because there are the, earnest, quote unquote, hero types that I'm all in for because they aren't in on the act, but they wholeheartedly embrace the label, and I enjoy watching that. I'm not going to name specific names because, it's more fun to pretend that I really enjoy those people as quote-unquote heroes than the actual comedy potential they provide. But if you've listened long enough, you know who I'm talking about.
All right, so John is, very comfortable to play the role, and frankly, like, he probably grew up big man on campus a lot of his life, of prototypical Goliath we have Christian on the other side, who is, frankly, if he were a nerd character on The Big Bang Theory, we would say, wow, they're really overselling it. Except that we, maybe not on The Big Bang Theory, because we'd be like, okay, he's just like everybody else. But, like, if it were on a scripted television show, we'd be like, we get what you're doing, writers. Maybe actually meet a real nerd. Like, dial it back a bit, Christian.
Exactly. That's what I was saying earlier. It's, he could just tone down a little bit of his tendencies and the nerd thing would still shine through. I did like his alliance with Gabby. That seemed very natural. I did like how he was like so quick to point out, like, totally platonic, just a couple of bros that aren't bros hanging out and voting against people. Like, I dug that. I think they have a nice natural play off of each other. I think he could learn from her how to give a little bit more natural confessional. But I liked Christian so far. He's a good narrator. What was your take on him?
Yeah, I think I will like the Christian who slows down a bit. That will happen in a few days. Frankly, I have a tendency to prattle over for my limited audience of this. So, I could only imagine what it would be like now you're on national television, this show that, I don't know his background, if he's a big fan or not. And, talk about yourself and we're Davids and, Jeff Probst is filling up our head. I think you might move at a bigger speed and maybe overdo it a bit. Because yes, I think there are touches there that, will make Christian an interesting breed, form of the very particular breed that he so very clearly.
Yeah, I mean, there's once the nerves wear off, the pregame jitters.
Yeah, of which away. Some of them will. Obviously, I think he'll still be a bundle of nerves throughout, but some of it will, the cameras will start to fade after a while, that sort of thing.
Right. Who else are we talking?
Lots of fans in our audience. Big fan favorite, Natalie of the Goliath tribe. Not to be confused with Natalia. Really, yeah, we have a comment section. You should dive in there every once in a
while. How did I not pick up on Natalie being a fan favorite? What?
Because she was awful? Maybe that's why? Maybe that's why it didn't register with you?
What was the rationale for our commenters loving Natalie?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Other than, look, she's obviously a very different type than what you not only see in Survivor, but you see presented in a media life, right? And it'd be cool if there were more types like that, successful older black women. So, from that type, I understand, but if she were any other type, man, we'd be just pillorying her. And to be fair, some people certainly are. She making every classic mistake, and I can say that because in this very episode, we had two white dudes doing versions of what she did, and they got, lambasted for it. She's pushing around people and with very little concern of how she comes off with, like Pat, and she's being, lazy, not do much like Nick, and they were both negatively portrayed and received, and people are still like, yes, Natalie Queen. She was awful.
Well, I mean, she's gonna struggle anyway, because she's the oldest one there, and it seems pretty clear just looking at that tribe. It stands out. It's not like she's 35 compared to everybody else's 25 to 31. It's a pretty significant age difference over most of that tribe. I mean, Mike White's obviously closer to her age. But yeah, I mean, she's gonna need to find some type of an alliance with these people. And I just didn't get the impression that she's working really hard to make that first alliance.
Well, I mean, she's in a very tough spot from the jump. And maybe some of her attitudes like, really? And because it's like, frankly, even if you took like two demographic factors off of her, she would be in a tough spot from the jump, because this is a show that doesn't like older women, doesn't like, minorities, doesn't like minority women, does not like women in the, the early phases of the game. But I mean, she did nothing to overcome those things. She only enhanced it, and so not only is she, getting perceived as the one that's not doing anything like Nick, or the one that's bossing people around and thus rubbing them the wrong way like Pat, she's also got kind of that David Sampson, I'm really smart executive type that nobody cares about when they're on the island. It's just a really bad triple threat package that she's presenting there. plus all of the factors that, would make this so hard for her. She didn't need to give herself an extra handicap.
Right. I mean, she's already got an uphill climb. Just, again, looking at the tribe that she's starting off with.
Yeah, and then maybe Halas is just like, you know what? What's the point? What am I? Because frankly, even if she did everything right, she'd be in a tough position. But at least now, when she is the first person voted out of that tribe, we can say, well, she certainly did herself no favors. She does not strike me as somebody who should be on Survivor with the way that she presented herself in 3 days. Which, again, is a little unfortunate because it would be cool if there were more people like her, both in Survivor or just in, our media landscape. But, Survivor ain't for everyone, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't know where the end is for her. So, spoiler, when it comes time for predictions, I don't think it's going well for her. Instead, let's talk about Nick. What was your impression of Nick?
I will say he spoke directly to me in a way, like I felt heard when he's like, it's not hard to not do a lot of work. That I can understand, but I don't know if that was, the most, good, the best advice for somebody on Survivor, and apparently it's not true. They saw Nick, they're gonna see.
What's weird is, I think he said he's from Kentucky, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Look, not all those red staters are hard workers. Don't believe the hype.
No. That's not where I was going with this. I almost feel like this is such a weird accusation, but his accent seems either faked or played up or just in some other way forced. Like that doesn't feel like the way he naturally talks. I don't know what it is, but there's something off about it. Maybe
it's like a halfway, like in his professional life, he's learned to not do it, but that's still the way he is. And so, look, some mangled mess of it is what's come out when he's in this situation. I don't know. Yeah, like he's kind of like the evil Donathan in some ways, like in his presentation.
Yeah, I mean, it might be the same thing that Christian is suffering with, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm the nerd, so I have to be the nerd times 100. I mean, Nick might be playing up the Southern thing. Who knows? But there's something that felt inauthentic there, and I can't put my finger on it. It's something related to his voice, though. Also, again, with the lack of authenticity, everybody's coming together, having this big, nice moment. We're sharing personal stories. Everybody's getting along. And then Nick, like hours later, is like, oh yes, I am also human, must share a story, and wakes everybody up, which I don't think he's making up his story. But I don't know that it flowed naturally, buddy. Like, I don't think that came off as well, even if the rest of the tribe was, like, sympathetic about your story.
Well, I'll say this for him. I don't know if it ever would have come out. Like, that's kind of what he was getting at in his narrative, like, come out naturally. What I think he was getting in his confessional is that it's not a natural thing for him to do, and thus it was kind of hard. Now, I'll believe for that. It's something that it was like, I should do this. He was working up the courage to do it. I'll also say that I think people are overplaying that he woke everybody up. I think, from what I saw, there were certainly some people that were turning in to go to sleep, but I don't think everybody was asleep. He was like shaking people up like, hey, I got a story too. I do feel like, yeah, but I agree that it came a little later. In fact, when he was talking about it, I was almost ready. He's like, is he Johnny Fair playing this bit? But no, I think it was legitimate, and I think it probably came from a legitimate place, especially just in that vibe of, for one, we are just now human beings against the elements, and all that other stuff was us, kind of falling into what we need to do to get through this as people, and part of that is sharing of yourself in a way that seems really unnatural for people at home and really quick. But it's also the thing that happens in these experiences. When I say these experiences, I don't necessarily mean reality television, but apparently that. But of course, I don't have that point of reference. But, this is like this is summer camp, when these are the best friends in the world and you tell them everything. This is that long, travel study program that you have with people, and suddenly you're opening up to them because they're both familiar yet strangers, and you can talk to them in a way that doesn't happen. So I think all of that was legitimate, but I also agree that, there might have been part of, oh yes, but my social game theories tell me that I too should be doing this.
Right. Let's talk about someone that I guess, at least in some way, we have some preconceptions about already, even if we didn't watch previews. Mike. What were your thoughts on Mike?
I believe I've seen, well, definitely one, maybe both, or maybe part of the second one of his seasons, The Amazing Race. And then I've seen some of his movies. I mean, personality-wise, it's a odd fit for Goliath. Like, I get what they're going for. He has had success, so they're like, there's only one movie that was a big blockbuster. Like, he's not like taking Hollywood by storm or anything. He's a working professional. Which, I mean, I guess if you're a David, you're not. I don't know. It seems like an odd fit, but, I'm ready to see some more Mike White for a bit. But, kind of shows that no matter how big a fan you are, no matter how much you know, it's so easy to make rookie mistakes when you're out there, huh?
Yeah. I dug, though, that he asked John if he wears a mask to wrestle in Mexico. It was like a nice little subtle plug for Nacho Libre. Which, by the way, is a movie that I have seen, which is the rarest of things.
Well, basically, I think it has to be of a certain period, and then there's a chance that you might have seen it if it was in that window of time of your life. Yeah, I mean, everybody thinks they're being slick with the idol hunt. You ain't slick, man. Nobody's slick. And basically all it is like who gets the permission to look for things and who doesn't. Frankly, I don't have that on here, especially because I don't know who brought it up. I think it was Angelina or Allison or one of them, and partially I don't know because I don't know them. Maybe even Natalia. But it's pretty good that Survivor broadcast the idea, the talk, that there's a massive imbalance in gender diversity of idol holders.
Yeah, that was fun. The plug for True Dork Times, because you got to figure that's where it came from, right? Like Pittman was probably like, "Yes, she read my site,"
or somebody talking about it from his site. So like maybe it's she saw it on Rob Has a Podcast because
or like some nerd on Reddit tried to pretend it was their own data,
something like that. Yes, yeah. But yeah, it's a big thing, and frankly, it's always discussions that we're not in a good position to have, not only because of our gender, but also because, like, man, we don't know what it's actually like out there. All we can do is make assumptions. But, good for them for going out and trying it and then, watching a dude get it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe it was those two ladies, too, or wasn't it? I'm not sure who it was. I really
he at least had Kara with him, and let's talk about them, Dan and Kara. What was your impression on that quote-unquote showmance?
It's got to be an interesting way to live life, how you can just be, I am attracted to this person I've just met, and thus I will just instantly tell them. Like, I've never been able to be that person. In some ways, maybe you think it would have been better. It's like, I'm attracted to you, I like you, I will say it right away, as opposed to, feeling it out for a bit and working up the courage. Just like, hey, obviously you will be happy to receive this news because have you looked at me?
Yeah, I mean, for a former fat kid, he's certainly overcome the self-confidence issues he claims to have had. So, good for him.
Yeah, maybe it was after, hearing Natalie talk about how, he's done a good job making himself look. Actually, that was an interesting moment where Natalie maybe won over some fans, and I think, proved that it's that. While Dan is going on and on about how horrible it was to be fat, and it was the worst thing that ever happened to him, and he's done all this work, she has to sit there and be like, cool.
Great. What a struggle.
I'm glad we've all established that the worst thing that could happen to anybody is be overweight.
Right. Exactly. I'm sure she was very happy that he was making that point.
What did you think of the showmance?
Yeah, I don't care. They liked each other. That was cool. Cute. Very nice.
People I have very little opinion. Not little opinion is a negative connotation, as though I have low opinion. I have no opinion of these two people, but, people who meet the standard definitions of beauty found themselves attractive and can't not say it. Good for them. It's a storyline I hope goes for many, many episodes.
Sure.
Another person I thought we could talk about was B.
Yes. So this is one of the things that I was talking about earlier. Like, as cringeworthy as it was when Probst was like, wedging that David's thing into like the Pat talk at the end, like I thought they did a actually pretty good job with the scene where B was talking about the domestic violence thing, and she's trying to make Jessica like basically lift Jessica up, tell her oh, you might have saved your mom's life, and gives this whole compassionate confessional about it and why her life is the way it is. I mean, it was probably in total about 30 seconds, but I thought it was really just, well, if anything, maybe the music was a little laid on a little too thick, but it was.
But that's Survivor, yeah.
Yeah, that's how the show goes. But I mean, it was a good scene, and I think it was nice for an audience to get to see that sort of thing coming out, and she's talking about her refugee experience as well. Like a whole lot of stuff crammed into a very short period of time. I thought it was pretty powerful.
Yeah, and I thought she was great. And I think what's also really great about it is you don't necessarily cast the MMA fighter for this role. This,
right.
Relaxed and compassionate human. They probably like, she's going to be the strong one. She's going to be about challenges and all of that. No, like already, just in that moment, because of that opportunity, because of who she is, she has a great chance of being a well-rounded human being on a show that doesn't necessarily look for that. So I'm looking forward to seeing if that continues to be true, because yeah, she was very impressive in those moments.
Yeah, I mean, if this is how she's going to play, if she can manage to connect with other people like this, I think that probably made Jessica like instantly feel, and maybe she's not instantly like B's newest ally or something, but at the very least, she's going to hesitate to vote out B, right? If B's name comes up first, she might be like, let's maybe push the target somewhere else, give B some time. I think B, that's a fairly authentic social game, like building people up. And I think that that's going to help her. If she continues that, if that was a one-off thing, that sucks. But if that's how she's going to play, good for her. She should go far.
Yeah. And even more than like authentic social game, like genuine authenticity. That's what that was. And that's generally what it takes. So my people, like, oh, social games. It's like, yeah. And often it's just like, what kind of person are you? This is why, I contrasted it with Nick. And it's like, I do believe, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that it was a genuine feeling for him that wasn't easy and it might take apart. But it also was a chance, especially, just in the type that he seems to be. It's like, oh, I should do this too. But, it took a while to come to that conclusion. For her, just, yeah, this moment touched me and I could use it to help, not, make another human feel touched as well. And that's the sort of connection that can really help you, in Survivor that you can't just fake. And also just like maybe proves that you're a pretty solid human being.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like too that, there's Jessica, this younger woman that she's like taken under her wing. Nice little mentorship thing going on there. It, like I said, it worked on a lot of levels. I enjoyed that one a lot.
In fact, in my earlier, ambiguous feelings about the episode, it was good. And I genuinely like that we got this time to get to know these people as people and what it's like to be out there. It just invites fewer things for, me, the podcaster, to talk about, right? But I like that we could get that, especially, given the alternative, because of, their hand was forced and that, a generally solid 20 minutes of programming was taken off the port. And yeah, the moments where they're dealing with that, the moments when they're getting to know each other, like the David tribe especially, we basically saw everybody form like a partnership, at least with one other person.
Right.
On the Goliath tribe, we start to see things form. A lot of it seems to be a little more typical. Hey, the younger, brawnier people are starting to gravitate towards each other. And that's good. And I look forward to seeing how that can pay off. It's just, I didn't get that payoff, so it's less for me to discuss. Is there anyone else you want to talk about from this episode?
You talked about the pairing off. I think the, Elizabeth and Lyrsa combo was interesting. I mean, definitely not a pairing I would have expected. So, bravo for that one. It's something
to watch. Yeah, it's good to see like, hey, this could be a thing. And also should be noted that we have confirmed lesbian on a Survivor finally.
Yes, yeah, it's canon. Lyrsa is a confirmed lesbian. And that I don't want to say like I'm all in on this. I'm just saying like the Elizabeth and Lyrsa pairing has potential. Like if that becomes a thing, the whole I'm down for the different worlds alliance. And also I'd say like Gabby seemed pretty decent. I already mentioned her as like someone, her bond with Christian felt
I don't
cool.
necessarily appreciate the cracks that people are making. Like, of course she's a technical writer. Like we're a diverse group of people. Although, I mean, I gave up on it a long time ago, maybe because it was the purview of dorks. I don't know. Just come on.
Yes, and as we've established, you are definitely not a nerd.
No, I would obviously be a Goliath. Actually, here's a question. Amongst the PRP people, who would be in the Goliath tribe? And I wanted to make it clear, only amongst our people in comparison of. So clearly you and I are Goliaths. Is there anybody else? Do we got, I guess if we're confining it to PRP, then we could maybe include, Emma and Matt. After that, I've got Big Baller Brand. And, I don't know if there's anybody else.
Oh, you're extending it out to commenters too.
Oh yeah. The whole community. How many Goliaths do we got here? Could we make a tribe?
Oh, this is a good one for the, comment section. This should be the pinned top comment and we can work it out there.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that so many of you would be personally insulted if we put you on the Goliath tribe. And I want to make clear, don't be well, because I grew up with this degree of privilege or I have, this kind of job, Survivor would put me in Goliath. I mean, if just within the purview of our community and, the attitudes within and the way people act, who are the Goliaths of Purple Rock Podcast?
I love it.
In a sea of David. So, let me know. And frankly, you shouldn't be insulted that I'm calling you Davids. You all personally, most people would want to be called Davids, right? David is the hero of the story. All right. So a feature we're going to do, this season, because we always like to have some gimmick is, and I didn't ever land on giving it a good name. So we're going to say the season check-in. So instead of just kind of talking about, what we liked about the episode, which obviously the majority of the time's taken, we do want to kind of check in of how we're feeling about the season as a whole. And the reason for that is because we're going to have different hosts, from week to week. It's good to kind of get a sense of what that week's particular hosts are into. However, it doesn't really make much sense because we only have this episode to talk about. So really briefly, I'm in on Johnny Nitro for sure. Absolutely.
Yes.
And out so far, and this is unusual because I'm usually the person saying it's not worth complaining about, but as of right now, the theme is already bugging me in a way that frankly surprises me.
Oh, if anything, it's steered me harder into the overdogs. I'm down for the Goliaths because they're hammering on the theme so hard. I'm one of those people.
All right, you got any in or out? The old in and out.
Oh boy. No, I mean, I as I've established, very into the mayor of Slamtown. It's fantastic. I love the rattling off of the nicknames. Other than that, there's a lot more potential. I think thus far, and it's obviously a very limited sample so far, but I think John, to me, was the only one that seemed like a potential star from this cast. There were a bunch of others that I think have potential. Not a bunch, but I think a small handful of others. We mentioned,
or at least people you're not willing to write off yet. I think that's how I feel with most of them.
Yes.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's at least some seeds planted that maybe certain people are going to be interesting for me in coming weeks.
All right. So we had some interesting news, this week in the world of Survivor. And, many people tweeted this to me. They are now accepting applicants from Canada to be on, the Mothership Survivor show, thus letting go of the beautiful dream that one day we would have Survivor Canada, which is a bunch of people out politing each other so that they could live in an igloo.
And then just sucking down all that free healthcare. Yeah, they're clearly scraping the bottom of the barrel here, having mined the depths of America's casting.
They clearly have. I mean, come on, look at the most recent seasons. Y'all need help. Y'all need real help. And I'm ready for a Canadian to get on there and win it all, just because people will be like, well, actually what would happen is for Canadians on there is nobody would let them get to the end because their very Canadianness would make them a jury threat. Now I think the bigger question people have is, well, is Andy going to apply now? And the answer is fuck no.
Yes. Yeah, I think I used to hold out dreams of applying. I similarly have none, and I could have applied the whole time. I'm American. I was not restricted in any way.
It's actually funny because when my mom, maybe my mom now, I haven't talked to her. I'm a bad son. When my wife saw it, and let's pause for a moment for the Freudianness of what I just slipped up on there.
Yep.
She's like, are you going to apply? It's like, you know me, man. my social skills have devolved to nearly subhuman levels. It is not a thing I should be doing. And, frankly, even if you were to overlook, the obvious, physical limitations of why somebody would want to put me on television, there are other things. They wouldn't film well. So, I'm good. I'm good just talking my shit from this end of the microphone. And frankly, I want to keep my analysis pure. I don't want to go on that show and then have to come back and be talking about how, everybody plays hard and you really got to take both sides on each issue, and oh yes, that person really should have gotten a bigger edit because now I'm more sympathetic. No. I gotta, for you all, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I can vouch for the audience that doesn't get to witness it, but you barely even have social skills in the Purple Rock Slack chat. So
it's gotten even worse now, especially typing, because everything's just quickly on my phone because my stupid kids are around all the time, and it's just whatever, typo, I don't care. I'll try to fix the tweet and then screw it up 2 more times. It's just gonna have to be that way. Yeah, no, I don't really like what they call people, especially because I stopped being around them a year ago. I just basically see 6 people in my life now, and that's the way I want to keep it.
You know what would be interesting though is if a Canadian was on there, you guys get to keep all the prize money you win on shows, no taxes, right?
Well, if it were a Canadian production, that's absolutely true, but you have to pay your U.S. taxes, your, backwards ass, I'm going to tax people from their winnings because we don't tax people from their earnings. We don't tax winnings here in Canada. I guess the flip side of that is we barely give anybody any winnings. If there were Survivor Canada, it'd be cool, $200,000 tax free because that would be the grand prize. A lot
and
of
a
winnings
year's supply of ketchup chips though.
I know, but I would want it to happen just for the sponsorships,
Yeah.
We're in the Tim Hortons hut and people would just be they'd be running people over like they did when for crazy challenges. There would be 3 injuries that would happen.
Yeah. So I wonder then if people would be thanks Obama after they, saw that they actually had to pay taxes on that, the windfall earnings.
Now, the good news for that winner, even though they have to pay your level of draconian taxes, is that payout's in American money, baby. So they might actually be the only people taking home a real cool mill at the end of it.
That's true. Yeah, once you convert it, you might actually be making some cash. Anyway, no one cares about international currency trade.
People come to this show for 2 reasons: to hear me yell at them and to talk about taxation. That's the whole deal. That's what it's all about.
Oh, if only. Well, not hear you talk about taxation, but
no.
Anyway, hey, there was another interesting topic that we should probably discuss, and that is Jeff Probst crushing the dreams of those of you that are rooting for the all-winners season. Probst's almost direct quote, I don't have it in front of me. He basically said, "Now we only have 10 winners that are even remotely interesting. We're not going to bother with an all-winners season." Oh my God, Andy, are you personally attacked?
No, not at all. First off, I do believe, cause I've long given up the dream of an all-winner season. That used to be something I really wanted because, when Jeopardy did Contest of Champions or whatever, that would be cool, But for one, we see these people come back all the time. So the thrill of yes, we're going to finally get the best of the best. But also, I kind of get what he's talking about. Now, with the 10 only, give it a rest, Probst. I saw the people you're willing to bring back. There is no winner as dull as some of the people you brought back for Game Changers.
Right.
So, yeah, in terms of what your bar is for bringing it back, slow your roll. But what I do believe what he meant by that is, and are also willing to come back. And I think that's where we get to it, is that when you're promoting something as this is it, this is finally the all-winner season that you've been waiting for, and then 5 or 6 of the best winners of all time peace out on it, it's not going to be what we wanted it to be. So maybe don't even do it.
Right. I mean, if you're getting the all winner season and it's, Vesepia and Fabio and Michelle and, Michelle, by the way, I made very clear on Twitter that every Survivor winner probably thinks they're one of the 10 that Probst is calling dynamic. And I was like, except Michelle, who is very aware because Probst has hammered that point home so many times. He's not
to the point
least
where
bit
people
interested.
are now like huge Michelle stans. People that weren't even then. That's how much they will rail against Daddy Probst. Like, how dare you say that about, Michelle, who I couldn't remember her name for half of the season. To her credit, she knows that, he is very much referring to her as one of the other 35 or 36. I think 35 is the number. There's about 5 or 6 names that if you're going to do an all winners season, that if not all 6, you need to have a majority of it for it to feel like I wanted it to feel. Because when I wanted an all winners season, what I wanted is the best of the best facing off in a format in which their previous, championship is not necessarily held against them. That's
Right.
the whole problem with bringing winners back, is that they're very easily a minority to be attacked, and thus it feels pointless. Why
Right.
bother
I mean, when
bringing
we
them
saw
back?
that in Game Changers, I mean, Tony was a second boot. Sandra went home pre-merge. JT did as well, although,
Yeah, all of them were gone.
JT.
Yeah.
But it's, because they're winners and everyone knows they're good players, they get reasonably targeted earlier. And that handicap is eliminated when you have all solid winners. But
but you're not gonna, they're probably not gonna get, Boston Rob, which, as maybe the biggest Boston Rob fan in like the Survivor commentariat, this is like the only format I want to see the guy back. I've seen enough, but it's just because without him, the format feels less than. Parvati doesn't seem to want to come back. Tom is never coming back. I'm pretty sure John Cochran is done with it. Like, whether you're picking this or not, these are like the big crossover names. Maybe not Tom so much. And there's a couple others I'm not thinking of. Kim Spradlin is not particularly interested right now in coming back. So it's like each one of those people who isn't coming back kind of dulls the impact of what an all-winter season. Like, I'm okay if an all-winter season has a few of those people we think less than, because I'd be interested to see how they compete in, such format. Maybe they really are great. Now, I wouldn't want it so that we could get like a whole tribe of them that thus can take over the game like they did with the All-Saran and Game Changers. But like a sprinkling of like a Fabio or an Adam, that'd be fine. But yeah, without a big portion of those biggest names, I kind of think that's what Probst is getting at, and I kind of agree.
yeah, as usual, we are on Team Daddy Probst, as you call him.
But I mean, the way you said it was so dismissive and jerkish. Like, come on, man. Like, I would, you could bring back Michelle, and I would still be bigger favor of that than bringing back Sierra Dawn Thomas.
I mean, not substantially more in favor.
Well, I mean, I'd be in favor of it because I'd want to see her lose, but no, she wouldn't. She'd stick around. Why would you vote out Michelle? I mean, I guess she makes your tribe lose, but other than that, we would, because she's a former winner. You got to watch out for her.
That's right. All right, so let's do some predictions for next week. Wrap this thing up. Who do you got?
All right. For the David tribe, I do believe if they had gone to tribal council this week, I think it would have been Nick. I think that he didn't have, the allies. He hadn't proved his value. However, if anything has been proven to me this week, and especially today, is that, a mediocre white guy will be given every chance at a second chance. So I don't think it's going to be him. I think, if they go to tribal council, it will be because of something that happens in next week's episode, and thus it's impossible to predict. But I think after losing Pat, I don't think they would be willing to vote out another guy, even though I don't know if Nick has demonstrated any kind of value. Being a white guy in Survivor and apparently in life gives you all the value they need, and they'd find which woman they're going to blame their challenge loss on. So I just kind of randomly said it'll be Lursa.
Okay. I'll be the one that steps out on the limb and say it's Nick if it's the David tribe.
I'd be great if it would. It's hard to penetrate my shield of cynicism at this exact moment.
Yeah, I mean, totally valid, reasonable expectation that it won't happen because of those precise things. What about the Goliath tribe?
I'd be shocked if it wasn't Natalie. I'm utterly shocked. I mean, if we had done, week 1 predictions, we just didn't because, again, we weren't following it. And frankly, I didn't want to play the cynical game of let's look at the pictures and pick the obvious.
Right. Based on past trends of this show.
Yeah. So just that would tell me that. And then I actually saw her play Survivor. It's Natalie.
Yep. Agreed. So we're unanimous on Natalie, and then we're both kind of hoping for Nick on the other side, but we'll see.
All right, so I guess this is the part of the show where we tell people the other ways they can experience our content.
That's right. You can, of course, find us on Purple Rock Pod. I'll be doing live tweeting from that account every week. You can find Andy at Purple Rock Andy on Twitter. I'm Purple Rock John, occasionally even tweeting every now and then.
And we have a new feature this season because we have canceled the live blog on our website, which you can find at www.purplerockpodcast.com. If you are somebody who kind of likes to live react, obviously we do have a comment post. You can do so there. Or if you're on Twitter, any tweet you want to put on during the show when you're watching it, just use the hashtag SurvivorPRP.
Yeah, we were debating using hashtag Purple Rock, but there's apparently some Denver rapper that's using that, and kind of great. I don't want to crush his vibe by throwing our Survivor tweets.
Oh man, I should totally reach out and see if we can play his music at the end of our podcast. Oh, maybe
he calls himself something like P Stanky or something. It was something ridiculous. I was like, all right, yeah, he needs to do our theme song.
Yeah, we would pay him good cash money. I mean,
sure.
Like Canadian game show level of cash money, but still. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. Next week, neither of us will be here. You get to listen to the podcast from Emma and Matt, and, let us know how it goes, because we sure as the heck aren't listening.
Exactly. Let us know how much you hated listening to us again after this prolonged absence. And make sure that you let Matt and Emma know that you're very excited for them. I'm sure you will, if for no other reason than you want to spite us. Anything else, Andy?
Hit the music.
The ocean shook, the sky went black, and the captain fell. And before us grew the angry joys of a giant whale.